right out of the gates, the task is, hey, we need to rebrand this organization. How do you get started? And, again, a daunting task, but going back to what I had learned throughout my entire career was that relationships are powerful. And relationships power change. And for me, I immediately thought, I need relationships. I need to start finding who are those team members, who are those advocates, who are those allies that can join me in this major initiative to rebrand an organization that was founded in the 1900s. And so, the first thing I did was start meeting with local agencies. As I mentioned, there's 230 local Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies across the country.
Welcome to How I Made It in Marketing from Marketing Sherpa. We scour pitches from hundreds of creative leaders and uncover specific examples. Not just trending ideas or buzzword-laden schmaltz. Real-world examples to help you transform yourself as a marketer. Now, here's your host, the Senior Director of Content and Marketing at Marketing Sherpa, Daniel Burstein, to tell you about today's guest.
When I was in school, I wanted to be a writer. And then when I got to start interviewing in ad agencies, I thought, wow, it would be so amazing to be doing this every day. Of course, fast forward to a few years into working at an ad agency, and it was a lot easier to focus on the drudgery. I was reminded of that when I read a podcast guest application with the lesson, no job is as glamorous as you think it is. So true. Well, now my focus is finding maybe not the glamour, but the fulfillment of a job where I get to create and help people every day is a great reminder for anyone starting their career. What may look glamorous on the outside is hard work on the inside. You just see Michael Jordan hitting the game-winning jumper. You don't see the relentless practice that got him there every morning, 5 a.m. wake-ups, everything it takes. We'll hear the story behind that lesson and many more lesson-filled stories from Adam Vassallo, Chief Marketing Officer of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Daniel, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to join you for today's conversation.
Let's take a quick look at your background. You started your career as a TV reporter at WCTV, a CBS affiliate. Spent 12 years at HSN, the home shopping network, where you were ultimately the Director of Marketing and Business Development. And now for the past 5 years, you've been at Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, where you're now the CMO. You lead a team of 9, along with 4 agency partners, and Big Brothers Big Sisters of America is a 501c3 nonprofit. According to its most recent audit, it received $71 million in public support and revenue in its most recent fiscal year. So, Adam, give us a sense. What is your day like as CMO?
As CMO, it's, every day is a little bit different, but, in my role, I've really committed myself to surrounding myself with just, top marketers, experts in their spaces. And so, my goal going into every day is knowing that they're doing their best work, whether it's my team that's overseeing our creative and our content development, or the team that's overseeing all of our digital and sharing so many stories across our social media platforms, or the integrated marketing world, which is managing our internal campaigns, assets, the development, the things that we're providing for our network of 230 agencies across the country. So a lot of what I'm trying to do is just clear the path for them. And so, meeting weekly with each team member, looking at our dashboards, seeing where we're having success, places where maybe we need to be amping up our support, doing a little bit more, places where we might pull back. But really just spending a lot of time with my team, making sure that they have the resources they need, that I can clear a path for them to do their best work. And then at the same time, constantly paying attention to the market, to impacts, things that will ultimately, from the external world, impact our work. It's an always-on mission. There's always something relevant happening. Mentorship is a part of everyday life, and so there's a lot of wonderful moments in culture, in everyday life, and pop culture, where we can find opportunities to celebrate mentorship stories, to tell mentorship stories. It could be the latest movie coming out. It could be a storyline that talks about mentorship and celebrates the power of relationships. And so for us, it's always looking for those opportunities to be sharing our stories, the stories of our mission, with the external world, because at the end of the day, our goal is to build a village of positive, caring adults who empower young people through the power of relationships and mentorship. We're firm believers that it takes a village, and so our goal is to grow that village, and that's really what every action we take every day is built for.
Well, let's see what we can learn from lessons in your marketing career. And I mean, I like how you're talking right there about finding, you understand your value proposition. Let's find ways to tap into what's going on in society, what's going on in the news, so we can communicate that value proposition. But also, I think there's a lot we can learn from you, not just if you're a nonprofit marketer listening, of course, but also, one, as we talked about, you kind of have a bit of a franchise setup. I think a lot of franchisee marketers can learn. But also, we all need to tap into younger talent. Right. And so what you've learned as a mentor to younger people and how you grow people and bring them up, or if you're listening and you're younger and you're wondering, how can I grow in my career? I think there's a lot we can learn from you there. But let's jump in and look at some lessons from the things you made in your career. The first lesson you said, relationships are powerful. So how'd you learn this lesson?
Yeah, I mean, at every stop in my career, we find those mentors. In my current role, working with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, we have a saying. It's a hashtag if you see our social media channels. It's called Bigger Together. We're the largest preeminent youth mentoring organization in the United States. We understand and we advocate for the power of relationships. 5 years ago, I joined the organization actually as the vice president of development and marketing. And my first assignment out of the gates was to oversee a rebrand of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. Big Brothers Big Sisters of America was founded in 1904. This is a legacy brand. To make any change in a legacy brand and mission is a daunting task. I originally became involved with this organization. I was working in the for-profit world. You mentioned I had been at HSN, but I became involved with this organization originally as a mentor, as a big brother. Many years earlier. And, in that process, you get involved with the organization. You spend time, myself, I served on a local board that was created for young professionals. And so I remember being a part of the organization as a volunteer and thinking of Big Brothers Big Sisters and, wow, wouldn't it be great if this was an organization that we could, that could be evolved and you could, potentially rebrand it. And then, fast forward to the day, I get recruited. I join Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. I'm now the VP of Marketing Development. And right out of the gates, the task is, hey, we need to rebrand this organization. How do you get started? And, again, a daunting task. But going back to what I had learned throughout my entire career was that relationships are powerful. And relationships power change. And for me, I immediately thought, I need relationships. I need to start finding who are those team members, who are those advocates, who are those allies that can join me in this major initiative to rebrand an organization that was founded in the 1900s. And so, the first thing I did was start meeting with local agencies. As I mentioned, there's 230 local Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies across the country. They range from New York City, where where Big Brothers Big Sisters was founded, to rural communities across the American heartland. So they're diverse, they're different. The needs of each community are vastly different in some cases, but there's also many similarities. And so the first thing that we did was team up and create a task force. We worked closely with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City because we partnered with a marketing agency. So we started to immediately assemble really this, you could consider it like the Bigger Together group, but we assembled a group of local agency leaders from around the country. These were Big Brothers Big Sisters leaders who were passionate about this mission. And so we formed a group of about 20 leaders from a diverse group of markets, from small towns to major metro markets. So we formed a task force, and then we identified a marketing agency. We actually selected Barkley, an organization with an incredible track record for reimagining and rebranding legacy organizations like ourselves. But the added bonus was that Jeff King, who's the CEO of Barkley, was also a big brother. And so he knew the mission. And there were a lot, throughout the organization, there were a lot of passionate Big Brothers, Big Sisters advocates and mentors. And so we teamed up. We had our local agency task force. We also had our agency Barclay, and together it was never me as the senior leader of marketing driving this entire rebrand. Definitely at the table, definitely with a strong point of view, but I couldn't represent every single city and market across the town, the different views, the different needs of each organization. So what made this rebrand so successful was that we had a variety of diverse voices at the table alongside us. And so working closely with Barclay, we were able to have immersion sessions as a group, both virtually and in person. We were able to with the power of at the time this was back in 2018, so we weren't in this fully zoomed world, but we were able to bring in all of our 230 agencies and share updates in real time as we did the rebrand, because the goal was that in June of 2018 is that we took the full rebrand after a year of development and building, and we took it to the biggest stage that we have, which is our national conference. It occurs every year in June. It has about 3,000 attendees across the country, and we were able to unveil the new brand of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America to our local agencies. But to do it, again, it wasn't me taking the stage on my own and saying, hey, we're excited, we undertook this, here's all the research that we did to make sure that we're defining the right brand. I was able to bring along all of those leaders who helped us along the way, our local agency task force, our agency partners, real life mentors, real life littles, and so together we were able to unleash this brand, launch this brand before a lot of excitement at our national conference. And when you have 230 local agencies, they're a powerful group. And when you're going to rebrand, even as a nonprofit, because you'll never have enough, you'll never have too much media. And so it was imperative that we activated this grassroots, local community network, which was our local agencies of Big Brothers Big Sisters across the country, to unveil this brand. And so we unveiled it in June, and by October of 2018, we rolled out the rebrand. And it was, just an incredible experience. From that rebrand, we've had just incredible success, both in increases in fundraising, but also increases in developing partnerships and finding new voices and lifting up alumni that maybe we hadn't identified before, but had suddenly, identified themselves and said, hey, I was a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters when I was a young person. And so for us, those are the powerful stories that come about. But it all started as rooted in relationships, and making sure that if we're going to build this, if I'm going to be responsible for building this brand or whatever that marketing project is that you're building, make sure that you're gathering that table of advocates and supporters who are going to walk alongside you, who have the same shared values and shared vision. You might disagree at times, but that's a healthy disagreement. Those are healthy conversations to have, because nothing can be developed and built, especially when you're doing on this large national scale platform like we are, like we were doing with the rebrand. You can't do those in a vacuum. You have to have those all of the voices, all of the representation to make sure that everything's considered. And in terms of a rebrand, if you've been through it, there's just so much data you go to, both qualitative and quantitative, and there's a lot of different ways it could be analyzed. But if you have a group of strong voices, of experts around the table, of those who are living your mission, you're going to be able to build something that can last. And that's I think that's the legacy and the excitement of the new brand of Big Brothers Big Sisters that we've rolled out.
Yes, I think there's a lot of lessons there for anyone rolling out a rebrand. Obviously, there are many different stakeholders you have to get involved in: partners, agency partners, advertising agency partners, and what have you. I also want to point out, when using the word agency, using it for advertising agencies, but also your local chapters are called local agencies. And so I think there's a lot of lessons there too. You mentioned 230 local agencies. Anyone listening who's got franchises, it is a franchisee model. Like, when you're doing a rebrand, you got to get those people on board, right? So there's some of the things you did to get them on board, like that council and everything, and bringing them along in the process. Because the thing you don't want to do is come up with what you think is some brilliant brand in a vacuum, drop it on them at the next annual conference and say, here you go, now take it and run with it. See how that works for you.
That's right.
I think this next...
And,
Go ahead,
and,
sorry.
and yeah, just building on it is our agency task force was 20 leaders from around the country, but there's 230 local agencies. So we had to find that next layer down that allowed us to take the task force of 20 leaders, and then find moments where we could just do a webinar and we could bring everybody around just to provide updates so that they knew something was coming and that we're not going to get to June and there's this big, huge surprise. And so you can do that you can use all of your channels, all of your internal channels, whether you have an internal intranet or you have a webinar platform or just through email communication, but really activating all those communication channels to make sure everybody's in tune, maybe at different degrees, but really important just to keep everybody together.
Yeah, that's great. So let's look at another lesson, which probably ties into what you just said because the rebrand is a major effort. We have another story behind this one. When setting goals, say them out loud and share them externally, and then go exceed them. So how did you do this?
A lot of examples as marketers, we all have goals every day. We're all goal driven. We're not going out and creating campaigns or creating experiences or activations without having, first, researched informed strategy, then your goal, you're setting your goal and then developing your strategies to achieve those goals. So I'll use probably one of our most recent campaigns, one of our most successful recent campaigns. But yeah, my mantra is if you're building something in the marketing space, is to make sure that you set a goal, that you say it out loud, and then you share it externally. And all of our digital and social media channels allow us to really pump that out, especially when we have a goal. And then of course, what you want to do is go exceed them. And so the most recent example I'll share is a campaign we call the Big Draft, and I'll give a little background on the Big Draft. But 5 years ago, Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, we were honored to be one of the first organizations to receive a grant from the NFL Inspire Change Initiative. The NFL Inspire Change Initiative is the league's social justice commitment, and it's dedicated to creating access and reducing barriers in communities across the country. And through this work, the NFL invests in organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters of America who are doing exactly that, breaking down barriers, creating access for young people in communities to be empowered and to excel and achieve their full potential. And so, through our relationship with the NFL Inspire Change Initiative, we set out to achieve really three goals. One was to fuel Big Brothers Big Sisters programs across the country. And so these were programs like mentoring young people who have an incarcerated family member, or our Sports Buddies program, which is a program that's designed to create access through mentorship, but through a shared love of sports. So think of recruiting those mentors who love sports. We have a young person who loves sports and really creating a relationship through that shared love of sport. And then, our second goal was to we're an organization committed to justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. Big Brothers Big Sisters, in 1904, we were actually founded as an innovative alternative to the juvenile justice system. Our founder, a gentleman named Ernest Coulter, was a clerk of court in the New York City juvenile court system, and he saw too many young people coming through his court, and so he got together a group of his friends and he said, we're going to mentor young people in this community and see if we can be an alternative to the juvenile justice system. And so born from that commitment of all those years ago in 1904, of being that innovative alternative to the juvenile justice system. We're an organization that's committed to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And in shorthand, we call it JEDI. So through our work with the NFL, the league has been committed to helping us create what we call JEDI trainings for our volunteers, for our staff, for our board members, and just making sure that our JEDI principles that are part of our DNA are lived on a day in and day out basis by our staff and board members and leaders. The third goal, the third area where the NFL has supported Big Brothers Big Sisters through our Inspire Change work is through inspiring more people, and this is really a focus on men to become volunteer bigs. The NFL is well known to have fans both who identify as male and female, but for us, we know that there is a strong contingency of men who are fans of the NFL, and as an organization, we are constantly in a need. We have a current waiting list of youth. About 30,000 youth are currently waiting for a mentor across the country. And the majority of the youth on that waiting list are boys. And so our organization is constantly in search of men to become mentors. And so for that, the NFL and through our Inspire Change work has said, we want to support, we want to jump in, we want to help you recruit men. And so several years ago, when we first started the relationship back 5 years ago, we created a campaign called the Big Draft. The Big Draft, the positioning for the Big Draft is that while the NFL is drafting the next generation of players, Big Brothers Big Sisters is recruiting the next generation of mentors, game-changing mentors in communities across the country. And so the campaign starts the day after the Super Bowl, and the campaign runs until the NFL draft. Again, that period when the NFL is drafting their next generation of players. And what we'll do with the Big Draft is each year we'll activate influential voices from around the NFL. Many NFL players are alumni of the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. We'll create resources, toolkits, outreaches that our local agencies, the local Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies across the country, can roll out and can implement to attract, a very heavy focus on digital marketing, social media marketing. But you can also we also have the opportunity to do those local event activations because we're on the ground in so many communities across the country. But our Big Draft campaign each year has been successful in helping us drive signups for new mentors. And again, we call our mentors Bigs. And so this past year, we had 60 days for our campaign. Again, we have a waiting list of 30,000 youth across the country. Our goal for this year's campaign was in 60 days to sign up 6,000 new Bigs. And this year's campaign, again, we had a goal that we could pursue. We got really aggressive in enlisting both current NFL players, Hall of Fame NFL players, and then prospective NFL players, so players that were coming into the NFL draft this year. And we had them activate across all of their channels. We amplified them on our social media channels. And, what makes me really excited, because we went back to setting a goal, right? Back to what we talked about, where it was saying a goal out loud and then going out and achieving it. So we had a goal of 6,000 Bigs in 60 days. In the first 30 days of the campaign, we exceeded the goal of 6,000 new Bigs. By the end of the campaign, after 60 days, we had already signed up 8,000, over 8,100 Bigs across the country, so far exceeding our goal. And, we're already talking about how we're going to plan next year's Big Draft campaign. Our partners at the NFL Inspire Change Initiative, extremely excited with that work, with that progress, and with the outcomes. And again, ready for next year. Each year the campaign gets better. And so we'll set out, we'll start planning, we'll set a new goal for next year. But again, really critical to come back, set that, identify that goal, a goal that is reachable. It's a bit of a stretch, but then to exceed it that's the best feeling in the world when you're a marketer.
Well, congratulations on that. And I wonder, when you talk about goal setting, your opinion on what level of risk you take, or how you take on risk, and also how you figure out that right KPI to measure it. And I'll give you an example real quick. I interviewed Jasmine Gutman, the head of corporate communications at Content Stack, on the How I Made It Marketing podcast. And one of her lessons that she shared was playing it safe can hurt you more than you know. And she gave an example where they focus grouped an idea, did not do well in the focus group, but they took a chance. They actually put it out in the market. They A/B tested it to see real performance, and it outperformed. And so, a big conversation we tend to have on this podcast with leaders is, that big, hairy, audacious goal. You got to take those risks. But these are, tech leaders, biotech, some of these industries. I know nonprofit, I'd imagine it's a lot harder. You mentioned not only your 230 local agencies, you got partners like the NFL and some of these things. So how do you decide how to, take on risk with some of those goals, how far to push it, how to, that startup mentality we all hear about, and how to actually measure it to make sure it's not like just focus grouping it, but actually seeing the performance in the field?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for our Big Draft campaign, when we set out and set our goal of 6,000 Bigs in 60 days across the country, we had numbers when we set a number that was originally lower than that. We looked at maybe a number that was larger than the 6,000 goal. We're a nonprofit, but we've been really dedicated to making the right investments and smart investments. And several years ago, we invested in a Salesforce platform. We call it Matchforce. It is a platform built on a Salesforce platform. It is there to really capture our entire match experience. So from the moment that a potential big visits a local Big Brothers Big Sisters agency or goes to bbbs.org, our national website, and clicks that they want to become a volunteer, they enter their zip code, it finds the local Big Brothers Big Sisters agency in your community, and it starts the process for you to become a volunteer mentor, to become a big. That entire system is now built for the first time ever when we entered this relationship with Salesforce on a Salesforce platform. And so what it allows us to do is see historical, both from the inquiry, so what are we driving at the top of the funnel, the inquiry, all the way to the conversion of actually becoming a mentor. And it's a multi-step process where our bigs will, you first identify you might become a big, you do an interview, you get to meet with your potential little, you'll get to meet with staff members. There's an interview process, but in that process to become a big, we're able to see, how fast we can move potential mentors through the system and using the power of the Salesforce platform. And so we were setting out to create our goal of 6,000 bigs in 60 days. We looked at the historicals, what we had done in previous campaigns at the same time period. We knew that we had a good, strong investment in social media. We had the support of the NFL. We also had a sponsor in Old Spice who joined us and became a partner for the big draft. This was they've done this for a couple years. So we had this, we had the power of our partners. We had some historical data, and so our goal was to not set something that was too high, where it was just a number we would never reach. But we also wanted to make sure that we exceeded last year's results. And so we landed on that number of 6,000. Excited to see we exceeded it. If we had blown by it by, 12,000 inquiries, then we would have known we would have been too low. I think, achieving a number of 8,100 shows that we were in that right spot. But, next year we'll set out and, we'll go through the same process and identify what that next big goal is. The goal is that it's larger and that we're able to activate and inspire more caring, positive adults to become mentors with the campaign.
Yeah, and that goal setting ties into the next lesson you talk about, start at the end. Start at the end. I love this lesson. I loved Stephen Covey talks about begin with the end in mind. I think it's a similar lesson. And especially as marketers, it's so important for us to paint that vision of what this will look like. So when you talk about your Salesforce campaign, your NFL campaign, the rebranding, I'd imagine when you're getting all those people on board, it helps to begin with, okay, here's what it's going to be like. Here's the future state. So why don't you tell us how you learned this lesson, start at the end, and how you roll it out now? Yeah,
absolutely. So start at the end when, before Big Brothers Big Sisters, as you shared, I was director, my last role at HSN, the Home Shopping Network, was the director of new business development. Altogether, I was there 12 years. My roles spanned brand marketing to integrated marketing, included stops within multicultural marketing, and finally that biz dev role. At each stop, I was responsible for creating and delivering on successful campaigns and partnerships. These were sometimes campaigns that were 1 week, 1 month. But for me, if it means, picturing what the headlines are going to look like, what are the results, press releases, visually, what does it look like? How is your target audience going to respond? What do you want to see from the campaign? By identifying these end results, as a campaign and a project manager, it drives you to identify the timeline you need to meet those goals, which you can walk back. You can identify the key target dates if you know when it has to be delivered. It allows for you to make sure that your internal reviews, your external, if you're internally getting approval from your CMO, if you're getting internal approval from a separate department, you'll know the timeline that you need to meet it. If you're working with a partner, you need external feedback, you need their approval if you're using their intellectual property. And so it just allows you to really build out a really rock solid timeline to make sure that you're delivering on the results, and you're on strategy, on time, and on budget, the goal of every marketer. And so by identifying the response that you're hoping to see, you can really develop it. One of the, thinking back in my time as overseeing multicultural marketing at HSN, I remember, it was, through the market research and, you identify opportunities, and we weren't, we didn't have really great performance with Hispanic audiences. And so you think of HSN, a multi-channel platform, a television retailer, supported through a call center where potential shoppers will call in, they'll order what they see on TV. They'll also go to the website, again, multi-channel, so they're engaging on social media channels, they're visiting the website, they're shopping on the website. But when we looked at our needs to engage and inspire the Hispanic audience to shop with HSN, I started at the end and thought, we have a lot of work to do, we have a lot of ground to cover to engage the audience, and it all comes back to being authentic in what you're doing. And for many, and especially in multicultural marketing, many times that's passing the eye test. And so looking at what we had and knowing that we had a call center where a potential shopper could call, but if they were speaking Spanish, we didn't always have a Spanish-speaking call center rep on the phone available to speak to the shopper. If you watched a show that was maybe a fashion presentation, you would see models on air, but the representation from Hispanic, Latina models was not there. And so as an organization, I pictured, what does this look like in the future? What does it look like when a Hispanic shopper calls and wants to speak to a call center representative in Spanish? I thought about, who are the right partners? How do you accelerate? How do you become an authentic member and partner of the community? And sometimes it takes partnerships. We launched a partnership with Univision, but it really starts with picturing, what does it look like? What does this authentically look like? What does it look like to do it right? Not to cut corners. And when you do that, you lay out, you're going to be able to lay out a timeline that makes sure that you're hitting those goals, but at the same time, hitting all the necessary checkpoints between, where you are in your current state and where you are achieving your goal.
Yeah, I mean, something that definitely helps you and helps the whole team. But I'll tell you one thing I did back when I was in consulting is I'd always include that at the end of a pitch deck. So if you have a pitch deck, you're trying to, pitch someone on something, I'd always end with, how do we get there from here? Because at that peak moment when they're, okay, here, I've got buy-in, well, now here's what we need to get there. And that's when you need to get those resources. So in the first half of the podcast, we talk about lessons from the things you made. In the second half, we talk about lessons from the people you made them with, which we will talk about in just one moment. But first, I want to let everyone know that the How I Made It in Marketing podcast is underwritten by MECLabs Institute, the parent organization of Marketing Sherpa. To learn how MECLabs services can help you get better business results from deeper customer understanding, visit meclabs.com/results. That's MECLABS.com/results. All right, let's talk about some lessons you learned from the people you made it with. And I especially enjoy talking to you about this, considering who Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America is. When I formed this podcast, I'm figuring out, okay, what does the marketplace need? What's not out there? The whole How I Made It in Marketing idea was great for that first half. Like, okay, that was something I always enjoyed about being a marketer, is actually the things I got to make. I don't know if you get to do that in every business, if you're an auditor or a podiatrist or whatever it might be, right? But I had my book, I had my portfolio. I got to make these things, these campaigns, these brands. It was so filling. And the other key part is it's such a team-based industry, right? I had my art director partner, my account executives, my clients, all these things. So those people we made it with was so key. And doing now, more than 60 episodes, it's been so interesting listening to people have a chance to go back. It's become more of the marketing lessons. It's become relationships in life, and just to go back and to think about, oh my gosh, these people mentored me and it was so helpful. Or, hey, I had this person on my team and look where they are today. I was able to mentor them. So I think this will be a really interesting conversation with you, especially because you have a great perspective on this. So let's start with this first lesson. And I think I opened with this, and I wanted to ask you specifically because for any marketing leader now who is trying to recruit this new generation, people fresh out of college, people early in their career, but also for anyone young listening, it's just such a beautiful lesson. No job is as glamorous as you think it is. You said you learned this from Mark Wilson, the news anchor at WTVT TV Fox 13 in Tampa, Florida. So how'd you learn this from Mark?
Yeah, this will date myself, but this was back in the early 2000s when I was interning. When I thought that my career path would take me to be a TV news anchor. At the core, the reason I'm a marketer today is because I love storytelling. It's, I believe stories are powerful. I believe that they capture impact, and I believe they inspire us every day to take action and to, do something better and do something positive in our communities. And so my initial love for storytelling took me into the world of TV and broadcast news. And this is while I was in college at the University of South Florida. I was an intern at WTVT, the Fox affiliate in Tampa, and I was interning with Mark Wilson, somebody that I had gotten to know very well during my internship. And the industry, the TV news industry, was changing vastly. And one of the very easy things to point to is this transition to what they now call like a one-person band. And so it was, traditionally you always thought that when a news coverage was happening, it was a TV reporter going out into the field with a camera person, and together they were going to capture a story and tell it, and then they were going to feed it back, and compelling, and everybody loved it. Well, as technology advanced and, things like cameras became more powerful and they could do more, they became digitized. What happened in the industry was that many TV reporter and photographer teams became one-person bands where the reporter would actually go out with the camera, shoot their own story. If they wanted to put themselves on camera, they had to shoot what's called a stand-up in the industry. Many people know what that is. But you were by yourself. So then you would go back and you would edit the story by yourself. And so it really broke that mold of like, hey, I'm just going to capture the story. I'm going to write it. I'm going to make sure. And so, I think what Mark was really pointing out to me was, this is, it can be hard work. And so a lot of people, when they think of the TV and specifically the TV news industry, they think of somebody that is sitting in a well-dressed at a news desk, reporting on a story, selecting the fun story. But there's just an incredible amount of work that goes into creating those stories and telling those stories and sharing them every day. And so, yes, it can look very glamorous on the outside, but just know there's a lot of work behind it. Even, regardless of how passionate you are for the mission or how passionate you are for that work, you got to make sure that you're checking your desire for it to be this glamorous role at the door. I did go on to become a TV reporter, as you heard, but I realized that my true heart was to tell the stories I wanted to tell the stories that were always positive stories, and that's what took me to brand marketing and really my career in leaving the industry of television news. But this is advice. No job is as glamorous as you think it is, that I share with colleagues, I share with young people coming up in the industry, regardless of what industry. Just making sure that you always have a passion for the work that you're going to do. That passion's going to win out. If you're just looking at something that might be glamorous or seems fun or exciting or might get you a lot of likes if you share photos for it, it's going to be short-lived. And so just make sure that you're working in a mission like Big Brothers Big Sisters, where I now find myself, where I live, breathe, and drink the power of this mission every day.
No, I mean, I love that you say it. Like I said, and so in the opening, I used Michael Jordan, but since you're a Tampa guy, I'll use Tom Brady. How about that, right? You see Tom Brady win that Super Bowl, or you see him floating down whatever the bay or the river in Tampa holding, the trophy. You don't see anybody who's famously known for, too, is waking up at 5 a.m. the other 364 days a year and drilling and having just the right diet. And, I mean, that's the part you don't see. And for marketing, I think it's the same. You see the Cannes Awards or you see the Super Bowl ads. And
yeah, I remember, Dan's a great example. I remember when I decided to leave television news and go into marketing. I remember I went from being a TV reporter to in Tallahassee, the capital of the state of Florida, to what was a role called brand marketing specialist. It was literally the entry-level position in the brand marketing department at HSN, the Home Shopping Network. And I remember meeting with the HR team and thinking, I just want this job. I just want my foot in the door. I want to get started. I can grow from here. And I remember the HR director that I was working with saying to me, wow, you understand, this is the bottom of our marketing department. And you're a TV reporter. And I remember thinking, she thinks this is a glamour, she thinks this is the most glamorous role. She has no idea that the work that goes into it, and that, my passion, what I want is the ability to tell stories in that brand marketing role at HSN. And luckily, I persuaded her, I guess, in the interview, and I did get that role, and that's what started my career trajectory within the world of marketing. But I do remember, even outside looking in, sometimes there's confusion about how glamorous your role might be.
All right, well, what is an unglamorous element of marketing, in your opinion? What tips do you have on on mastering it. So, for example, I interviewed Shruti Joshi, who's the COO of Facet, on How I Made It Marketing. And one of her lessons was that process is the foundation for success. And she told the story of the process she set up while launching Fios at Verizon. It was a $12 billion business unit. And like, I'm like you, I love the storytelling aspect. I like the act of creation, creating this, writing, all of those things. And process is kind of the unglamorous part, but without process, I mean, this podcast wouldn't be published, right? Mm-hmm. So, for you, like, what are some of the, or at least one of the unglamorous areas of marketing you've had to master, and how'd you go about mastering it?
Yeah, I think it was process is a great place to say. When I was at HSN, I started in the brand marketing department. So building brands is, I mean, when I share my time at HSN, I always stop and say, like, what you have at a platform like HSN where mom and pops, or the entrepreneur that created something in their garage coming to an HSN, and what they want to do is they want to launch, they want to go global, and they can quickly do it because they're taking their platform not just to a retailer, but to a retailer that is also a marketing channel and television and a website. And so you would have the opportunity to tell these stories and build these brands and create the romance card and the positioning statement and all the reasons to believe. That was really fun, but you had to get the product launched, and so it was about developing that timeline. And so as a brand marketer, you work very closely with your creative team to bring it to life and to make sure that the strategy, it's on time, it's on budget, all of those really important roles. I was charged when I was at HSN with starting the first ever integrated marketing department, because we realized that there was this gap that existed between brand marketing, where the strategy was being developed, and creative services, where our in-house creative agency, where we were building the visuals and the content and the creative and the assets. And what we really needed was a disciplined team in the center. And I guess somehow I was selected as one of the disciplined marketers, which I would have never thought of at the time as a young person in the brand marketing department, but was creating that integrated marketing process. I think that's that non-glamorous. That's you sitting with different internal stakeholders and saying, hey, our current timeline is about 60 days, but we got to get to 90 days if we're going to be able to hit our print deadlines. And if we can do a better job managing resources, and we can do a better job making sure that in the creative department, the retouchers have time to spend and make sure that they're doing their job accurately. And so, it was tough conversations about creating a space for integrated marketing, making sure that we're working on more of like a 90-day out basis, and we're accounting for all the timelines that we have internally. But then on top of that, then you're managing the process, right? And then you're at the time we were working, today we use Asana here at Big Brothers Big Sisters for our project management platform, but at the time we were working on like Excel-based spreadsheets. And so it was that nitty gritty of like, yeah, you want to tell stories and you want to do all the shiny great stuff and Instagram Live and all of the great things that you can do from a marketing perspective. But at the end of the day, it's really about making sure that everything's moving in the right direction at the right time. You have everything accounted for. You're not just creating a video, but you're thinking of everything from the 6-second video from social all the way to the long-form video that goes on your website. And, just being that incredibly detail-oriented, it goes a lot beyond the glamorous, shiny objects that you so often see as the final product of marketing.
And no one is going to see those glamorous, shiny objects unless you get all that done. Here's another lesson you mentioned. Always have a point of view. You learned this from Bill Brand, the former president of HSN and the CEO of Rue21. So what does that mean, and how did you learn that from Bill?
Yeah, Bill, one of those great mentors. Bill Brand, he was a champion for me, even taking this role, leaving HSN and moving over to Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. I shared that I created the first integrated marketing department at HSN, something that was critically needed. But when you do that, you're sitting between the world of, again, marketing strategy and oftentimes the world of creative or execution. And I think when you're in those integrated roles, you have oftentimes two very different points of view sometimes from a brand and a strategy perspective and what's best for the client, but then also from that creative where you're trying to do the most compelling thing that uplifts your brand and upholds is aspirational for what you're trying to achieve for your mission. So in integrated marketing, you sit between those worlds, and sometimes there's a dispute between strategy and final outcome, and you really have to be the objective party. That again goes back to what the goals are, what the strategy is, and then, making sure it's adhering to being on time and on strategy and on budget. And, I think when I first started in that role, overseeing integrative marketing, that maybe I was sitting on the fence a little too much. I would share feedback, whether it was back with the brand marketing team or the creative team. And I remember I had like this line I would always use where I'd say, hey, I don't want to overthink it. And that was my way, kind of disarming the room, that, saying, hey, maybe the brand marketing team's right here, maybe the creative team's right here. And I remember I just had these ways of trying to navigate and not disrupt anybody, not ruffle any feathers. And I remember, when I was early and young in my career, I would come to the office early every day, because I was trying to get ahead. I can knock out a few things, get through some emails early in the day. And at the time, Bill, who went to become the president of HSN, he was the chief marketing officer. And we were working on a project, a booklet, right, that was for, I remember it was for CES. So this is probably in December, January, preparing to go out to CES in Las Vegas. And we were putting together an electronics gift guide, just, all of the products that you can buy at HSN, and we were going to present it and share with partners. And I remember Bill called me early. He was in the office early as well. There was nobody else there, nobody from the brand marketing team, nobody from the creative team. But we had to talk about this. This catalog had to be covered. And so Bill caught me at my desk and he said, hey, a lot of dispute. Here the brand team wants to list these brands, they want these priorities, but the creative team wants to really hone in and zero in on on whatever the newest technology was that year. And I remember he stopped and he goes, what's your point of view? And, if I was sitting there with my brand marketing colleagues or creative colleagues at the time, I'd find a way to defer and say, hey, brands wants this strategy. But, at the end of the day, it would be really aesthetically pleasing if we had, this aspirational image. And I remember I paused and I hesitated, and he knew it. And he stopped and he smiled and he pointed, he said, always have a point of view. And, from that moment, when you're working in the marketing department, and the CMO says, do you have a point of view? It sticks with you. And in the future, you always have a point of view. And so it's something I try to instill in my teams, because I think it also, it's disarming in the way that, it's also saying your opinion matters. You are an expert. We've put you into this position for a reason. I'm empowering you. I want to hear from you. And so it's one that's always stuck with me. I've shared this with Bill, because now I see him, great social settings or somewhere, and I'll remind him, hey, always have a point of view. And I think the first time I told him, he forgot he even said it to me. And he was like, oh my gosh, that is good. That is good advice. So, it's one that I love to share, and I love to make sure that my team also feels that, their point of view matters.
Well, it sounds like one reason you might not is confidence, building up that confidence. And so you said you learned from Artis Stevens, the president and CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America, to always be confident. So how did you learn that?
Sure, certainly. So Artis Stevens is, as you said, president and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. He is my boss. Artis has been with us for 2 years, just an incredible 2 years. He brings an energy, a passion, and expertise for the role, just incredible experience that is really taking our mission and our work to new heights. I always tell people I'm lucky, because Artis, before he became the president and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, was a chief marketing officer. He came up through the marketing world. And so from the moment he arrived, the first day I met him, and of course, when you're announced, when the new CEO is selected, the head of marketing is usually the first person to know, because you have to start developing the press release and the announcement, and what does the website look like, and where's his headshot. So I was one of the first people to meet him in the organization. And from the first conversation, he immediately starts complimenting the work that we're doing. So I saw that PSA that you have with the NFL that's airing during NFL games. I'm so excited to get to work with you, to be with you. And from that moment on, he became my mentor. And I share that with him every once in a while, but he just knows that we're both passionate about this mission and pursuing it every day. We're currently embarking on a really ambitious measure. We know at Big Brothers Big Sisters of America that we have about 20 million alumni and champions across the country. So these are alumni bigs and alumni littles. So the volunteer adults and the young people who have gone through our program. Of course, the young people in our program are surrounded by incredible parents and guardians who enroll them into our program. They're surrounded by family members. They're surrounded by the local agency staff who support them. And so these are our champions. And this is a pool, because at the end of the day, Big Brothers Big Sisters, our needs are twofold. We need more volunteers to become mentors. We also need more donors to power our mission, to help us We need more donors to help us power our mission, to help us have staff who are in the local communities, who are able to intake new potential mentors, who are able to match them with a little in their community, and then to support them, to have a match support specialist that sits alongside them and keeps them supported. So we're always in need of potential donors and potential volunteers. And what we know, because we undertook some really comprehensive research about a year ago where we looked at potential donors and potential volunteers, and our hypothesis was our alumni. How do we activate this estimated base of 20 million alumni and champions across the country? And what we found was that hypothesis was true, that 85% of the alumni bigs and littles who went through our program say that Big Brothers Big Sisters changed their life for the better. About 60% of the bigs, the adults who go through our program, again, the adults, told us that they got more out of their experience as a mentor than they believed their mentee did. And so using that research, we said, yeah, this alumni and champions group, this is a group that has the affinity to help us fill this mentoring gap that exists across our country. Currently, 1 in 3 kids across America say they're growing up without a caring adult mentor. So that's millions of young people. So we have a sizable gap to fill. We know our 20 million alumni and champions will be a key way to do it. And so our ambitious goal that we've set out on, we've started working with incredible partners at Dentsu Creative, one of the agencies that you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, Daniel. Dentsu Creative is working with us to develop a campaign in which our primary objective is to bring back that first 1 million alumni and champions to get involved and invested in our mission. And again, that's going to bring in the alumni, the potential volunteers, potential donors that we need to close this mentorship gap. So we started undertaking this work with Dentsu last summer. In September of 2023, we're going to be launching a national brand campaign. I unfortunately can't share what it is because we're going to be unveiling it at our national conference this June. But you know, for me, I've had a built-in mentor in our president and CEO, Artis Stevens, who I've been able to pressure check. Like, is this the right idea? Am I interpreting this research the right way? Mentorship never stops, and you know, the one thing that I consistently hear from artists is, hey, be confident. Like, trust what you're seeing. Your instincts are right. Be confident, and it's that positive uplifting. Yeah, there's going to be times in every relationship, whether you're working with your supervisor or staff, where there's going to be, maybe conversation that is constructive and developing. But at the end of the day, it's always hearing that I'm confident. Like, you got it. And I think that is just critically important for you to be hearing from your mentors, to be hearing from your coworkers, and to be hearing from your supervisors when you undertake a big, audacious goal like our national brand campaign is going to be, which is launching this September. So everybody, stay tuned and look for that campaign, because we're gonna want to hear as many mentoring stories as we can.
Well, mentoring, a lot of lessons from your mentors there. But here's one from your mentee, Adrian Davis. Follow your passion. So tell us about Adrian and how you learned this lesson.
Yeah. So mentorship comes in many forms. And we always say at Big Brothers Big Sisters that mentorship and the relationships that we create between bigs and littles, they're a two-way street. And as I shared in the data, majority of our bigs say that they got more out of the relationship, out of the mentoring relationship, than their little did. And I'm living proof of that. I'm positive to this day that Adrian, I got more out of my work and my mentorship with Adrian than he got from me. Adrian and I were matched when he was in the 6th grade. We were matched for 7 years from the 6th grade until he graduated from high school. The first day I met Adrian, I remember he was kind of shy. I was probably kind of shy too. I think everybody, whenever you meet somebody new, but especially a 6th grader, right? And the first day I met Adrian, I remember I met with my match support specialist, because they're right there. Every big and little in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program has a match support professional, so we call match support specialist, who's right there by your side, is giving you advice, is supporting you to make sure the relationship is going to grow and thrive and achieve the goals that you're hoping to achieve. For me, I was looking for the advice, like, hey, what's Adrian going to think of me? What's a good way for me to have approach? Like, come in with an angle. I wanted to think I'm cool. And I remember my match support specialist said he loves football. And at that moment, I knew why we were matched, because I love football too. And so the two of us were introduced in the cafeteria at his school. And the first conversation, I think the first words we got out was, I said, what do you want to do? Like, what are your dreams? And he told me, he said, I want to go to college and I want to play football. And, I think as somebody that never had a chance to play college football first, me, but then also you always think of the statistics, because we hear them so frequently, like, oh, well, hey, focus on your schoolwork, because, the chances of making it to be a college football player are so slim. They're so challenging. There's so many kids that play high school football, for example, every year, but the number that actually become college football players is very small. And I remember Adrian saying that, and I remember thinking, like, hey, I remember when I was in sixth grade, I probably told somebody I wanted to be a college football player. But as our relationship went on, when it came to Chris, I think I bought him a football for multiple Christmases in a row, because each year he would burn through them. But I remember just, consistently all of Adrian's vision. I was so inspired by him, because Adrian was focused on being a college football player. He'd play football year round. When he got to high school, he would do his homework quickly after school. He would make sure that he was at study hall, because he had to make grade, because he had to be in the football practice. He had to be at the football games. He couldn't miss grade. He had a wonderful mother. His mother would always, instill in him that, grades come first. If you want to be a college football player, you got to have the grades to do it. And so, we were matched for 7 years. My now wife was my girlfriend at the time. I remember throughout high school, we got to go to football games every week. It was the most exciting experience for me. But I was always just completely blown away by Adrian's desire to follow his passion and to be a college football player. And after being matched for 7 years and watching Adrian graduate from high school, he received a scholarship to play football at Southeast Missouri State. And I remember, each step of the way was inspiring, but seeing him graduate and then achieve his goal, which was driven by his passion, it just shows that, our young people, we can learn so much from our young people. And Adrian was that example of me learning from my mentee. So here we go, right? Who's the big and who's the little in the relationship? Who's the mentee and the mentor? Those roles can often change, and that was definitely the case for me. And definitely a great role to follow your passion that I learned from Adrian.
Very nice, and congratulations to Adrian for making it. Yeah. So we talked about many different things about what it means to be a marketer. In your opinion, Adam, what are the key qualities of an effective marketer? What do you look for when you're hiring? Who do you want to be?
Yeah. I think, there's a lot of things that come in marketing. We can teach discipline. We can teach processes. We can, there's, with every organization, there's a different way to follow. There's going to be a different project management platform that you need to develop. I look for passionate storytellers. I'm a passionate storyteller myself. It's been a thread throughout my career, but at the end of the day, as marketers, we're working to inspire our target audience to take a specific action. And I think there's nothing more compelling or inspiring than a story that shows the proven impact and outcome of your desired action. And so they're real, stories are real, they're authentic. And so I'm always looking for, first and foremost, great storytellers to help amplify and bring stories to light. You mentioned earlier, I think you said that, in marketing departments, you're like families. You spend a lot of time together. So often your job doesn't end at 5 p.m. You're going to be working, there's going to be projects that are going to drive you to have to work late into the night, that are going to drive you to have to log in on the weekend. And so the other just, really important quality that I look for is your ability to work well with others. And sometimes at the core of it, Daniel, it just means being a nice person, being a good person, somebody with empathy, somebody that's caring for others, somebody that's going to uplift. If somebody is sick or somebody is down, they're going to fill in. They're going to take that position, and there's they're going to be accountable for the work that they have to do. But at the core of it is looking out for each other, and I think those are two really critical qualities that you have to have when you're building a marketing department or you're joining a marketing department. Is just somebody that's passionate about this work and about driving the action. I think storytelling is the best way to do it. But then also somebody at the end of the day that is nice and is somebody you can work with and somebody that's going to feel like part of the family and want to be part of something special.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've asked this question many times, obviously, on this podcast, and I think that's the first time I've heard that answer. And I like it. I've heard someone say before, we spend more time with the people we work with than the people we made vows to marry, which is so true. So yes, want to be surrounded by nice people. Well, you're a nice guy, Adam. I've learned a lot from you today. Very inspirational conversation. Thank you.
Oh, Daniel, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Huge fan of the podcast. And I hope I've been able to lend some insight, something to this incredible universe that has been developed, and sharing how I made it in marketing. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. And thank you to everyone for listening.
Thank you for joining us for How I Made It in Marketing with Daniel Burstein. Now that you've gotten inspiration for transforming yourself as a marketer, get some ideas for your next marketing campaign from Marketing Sherpa's extensive library of free case studies at marketingsherpa.com. That's marketingsherpa.com.